After all the excitement of the recent weeks, Arsenal really needed a very, very simple game, and that is exactly what they got against 10-man Ipswich. This is the Arsenal Unfiltered match review podcast of Arsenal 4, Ipswich 0. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage with me, your host Mark. Wherever you are, I hope you are doing really, really well and you have enjoyed your Easter weekend if you celebrate that, or you've enjoyed your weekend in general. If you don't celebrate that, it's been a 4-day weekend here in the UK, so there's been plenty of rest, plenty of relaxation and plenty of football, of course, which is what we are all here to talk about. And of course, more specifically, the 4-0 victory for Arsenal over Ipswich. A very impressive display and one that I think we needed ahead of, season-defining games against PSG now. That's where we're at. We've got 5 games left in the Premier League. None of them feel particularly, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't have much jeopardy, I guess is probably the best way of saying it. It feels like, especially after the Aston Villa Newcastle result this weekend, we probably can get ourselves over the line in second place without too much effort. Hopefully it won't go all the way up until the Liverpool and Newcastle games that we've got. Of course, we don't want to be really pushing hard in those to make sure we keep second and keep that extra prize money and that kind of, I think, the status of being second as well. We don't want to drop below that. So hopefully we can get that wrapped up. Of course, the 3 points against Ipswich will really, really help us along that road. And we have Crystal Palace again on Wednesday to add to our total. An impressive display, I thought. And before we get into the game, I want to talk about the system and the way we lined up. The lineup was David Raya, Ben White, William Saliba, Jakub Kiwior, Zinchenko, Ødegaard, Rice, Marino, Saka, Trossard, Martinelli. So the fullbacks change, quite a bit. Obviously, Miles Lewis-Skelly and Urian Timber dropped out of the side. Simply, I think, for rotation, the amount of work we ask our fullbacks to get through, I think that is probably the most likely thing. And it's superb to have options like Ben White and Zinchenko. Not that long ago, those two we were looking at and saying, wow, these two are game changers for us in the fullback positions. Now I think Zinchenko's probably on his way out and Ben White's got a fight to get back in the team. So fantastic to be able to rotate them in. But I think the more interesting story is further up the pitch and the midfield 3 and the attacking 3, because I think with Thomas Partey out, that is probably how Mikel Arteta will line up for PSG. Now I have previously spoken about there is a world where you play Marino up top and you play Zinchenko in that left 8 spot, and interestingly at the end of the game yesterday, Zinchenko did end up in that left 8 spot, didn't he? And he looked okay there, but it's a very difficult time to analyse someone at the end of the game when you're playing against 10 men as well, so a bit of a weird one to try and second guess that, but that's my preference. I think this lineup will be Mikel Arteta's preference, where we have Mikel Marino in the left 8 and Leandro Trossard up front. Now, really, really interesting, because I don't think Leandro Trossard really played up front like a number 9 for us in this game, or even like a false 9. He really did have a completely free role, drifting this way and that, and a lot of the time it was drifting out to the right-hand side. You can see when you look at his heat map, he's very focused on the right-hand side, not focused centrally. He drifted out to join the 3 of Ben White, Martin Ødegaard and Bukayo Saka, creating overloads out on that right-hand side, just like we used to do, right? When those 3 were playing, this is the first time we've seen that 3 of Ødegaard, White and Saka since November. Arteta was asked about that in his post-match press conference, and he pointed out how unbelievable that is, that a group that was so pivotal to us for the past 2 seasons, we've not seen them for the thick end of 6 months now. That's incredible that's played out how it is. Of course, 2 of them have had surgery this year, Ben White and Bukayo Saka, and are now back in the side. And Martin Ødegaard obviously had a really, really long time out as well. So between them, I think it's probably best part of, a total of, 9-ish months out. 4 for Ben White, 3 for Saka, 2 for Ødegaard. That's a long time to be missing those players. That is incredible. Trossard was drifting out to join that side and really enjoy the overloads there. And Mikel Marino was really high up the pitch. He was playing as a left 8 in quote marks, but really he was right up there, acting as a second striker, sometimes the primary striker. And I think that real tactical change might be something we see against PSG to make up for the loss of Thomas Partey. And I think we saw in this game that Ipswich were not able to low block us in the way that teams usually are, because they had so much to deal with on that right-hand side. Plus, they also had no real striker to mark, with Trossard just drifting out there. The centre-backs just crept forward and forward because they had no one occupying them. They had space in front of them that they naturally went to fill, and that gave them a slightly higher line, which allowed us to break in behind and exploit them a couple of times. Well, 4 times to be exact, but mainly the 2 goals in the first half were us really drawing them out, and then in the second half it was a bit more of them, sitting in, and we obviously created 2 goals from short corners, which was another real feature of our game. It was really interesting how we dealt with Ipswich and how we drew their attention over to our right, their left, and left big gaps in the middle. When we can do that, it gives players like Mikel Merino and Gabriel Martinelli on that left-hand side a lot of room, a lot of ability to get on the end of things, which they did really, really well, especially Gabriel Martinelli for his goal. And yeah, I thought it was very, very interesting tactically. Obviously, it only took us about 14 minutes to get our first goal, and it was a really, really positive one. I thought in the first 10 minutes we were entirely dominant. Ipswich could not get into the game, couldn't get a foot on the ball. And just as I thought, they've had a couple of moments here in our half, they've got the foot on the ball a couple of times. Maybe this is, this period levelling out a little bit. Just as they did that, we broke away from them and we scored. And it was really interesting how we didn't waste any time. As soon as Ipswich felt like they got into the game, we looked to move the ball very, very quickly through the lines and get up the pitch very, very fast and try and score a goal, and which is exactly what we did. Obviously, it's a bit scruffy in the end. Trossard's kind of falling over as he applies the finish. Ødegaard, I think he's trying to bring that under his own spell. That'll go down as an assist for him, but really, I think the credit belongs to Bukayo Saka. We moved up the pitch really, really fast, and Saka does a fantastic job to kind of stand his man up, get past him, and then kind of cross/pass the ball into Ødegaard. It's a bit of a sloppy touch from Ødegaard, like I say, but a good moment for Trossard, and I have to give him credit. We missed goals like that this year. That is something we've really missed. He hasn't, I think, hit his heights this season, Leandro Trossard. He's been very hot and cold across all the competitions, I would say. Very hot and cold. But you've got to give him credit. He is one of the best finishers at the club, and I think he shows it in both goals today, where he just managed to create something, especially in this moment. He's falling down, he's on the floor. Actually, it looks like it's a scenario that Ipswich are going to clean up. But he shows that little bit of quality to get a decent strike on the ball, and that's all that was. That is not a world-class finish in any way. It's not a brilliant moment from him. It's just instinct and an ability to put a good, clean contact on the ball, which sometimes I think we really do lack. And fair play to Leandro Trossard. I would not be upset if Leandro Trossard left this year. I really do think we've got plenty of value out of him as a player, and I think if he is off to get a big paycheck somewhere else, maybe in Saudi, fair play to him. But he does definitely offer us this kind of performance every so often, which we are really, really glad of. And he's going to have to perform well if we're going to do well in the PSG game, because it looks like he is going to be starting. I do think this lineup is probably the warm-up for the PSG game. And of course, this has come down the right. Like I mentioned, we created so many overloads down the right. That is where we pushed. That is tactically where we focused ourselves. And a shout out for Ben White. I'll come on to him more individually later, but I thought he was brilliant down that right-hand side. The second goal, of course, also comes down the right-hand side. And this one was really, really excellent from Saka. Again, it's sort of nominally his assist in my head, because he does a lot of the hard work down the right-hand side and fizzes a brilliant ball across. But Mikel Merino, what a player that man has become. I was speaking to my fiance in the car the other day, and I was just kind of talking to her about actually, now that Mikel Merino has had some time, had some regular games in the team, it feels like he has stepped up, found another level. And I did it a little bit, I judged him maybe a little bit too quickly. I was quite patient on the summer transfer windows, and I still I never really said anything negative about Ricardo Calafiori. I still think he will come good with a good pre-season and time with Mikel Arteta. But I did remember having one podcast where I specifically said about Mikel Merino, I think maybe we're seeing some doubts here. But just scrolling back since he moved up top, he has been absolutely fantastic. 2 goals against Leicester, obviously in that first game. A goal and an assist against PSV, goals against Chelsea, Fulham, Real Madrid, assists against Real Madrid and Ipswich now. It's a really, really impressive run, and I think he's done a fantastic job since he's come into that position, and it's a real touch of quality in this goal. He just guides Saka's cross back into a slightly more dangerous area. I think he knows that he's not going to be able to finish in the position that he's in and the body position he's in more specifically, but he does know that if he gets this flick on, there might be someone following it in, and that is absolutely what Gabriel Martinelli is doing, and he supplies a really, really clean and clever finish, I think. Again, right-hand side focus, Ipswich are drawn over there. All we have to do then is put that ball across. Mikel Merino's gone to join in that really high attacking position. Martinelli's free as a bird at the back. Ipswich could not cope, and they were still at 11 men at this point, and we were cruising to victory way before the red card. And I thought it was a really impressive start to the game. The first 30 minutes, I think Mikel Arteta said this as well. He said about probably the first 35, I think he said, was a really, really impressive display, and it was us at our very best. I remember watching the Ipswich game in December where Kai Havertz scored the only goal, and it was a real toil at that point. We just lost Bukayo Saka, and the contrast in this game, just being in a more positive place, I think is probably the number one thing. You could see the players were confident, you could see the players were flowing really well, and the tactical instructions were really, really good. It of course helps that we had our best player back on the pitch yesterday in comparison to the December game where we'd just lost him. But, we're missing Gabriel, we're missing Kai Havertz, so there are still players out. And I just thought, mainly, it felt like a team of players who they knew they were going to win this game. They never had any doubts. They were really, really confident. Every player on the ball was excellent, I thought. I don't think anyone looked out of place on the ball, off the ball either. But, of course, we didn't see much off-the-ball threat. We didn't see much threat from Ipswich, so our off-the-ball capabilities didn't need to be too high, and that is mainly because of that red card. I think Ipswich are a good team, a decent team. They're obviously going down, but I think they were probably the one out of those 3 that had the best chance of staying up. They gave it a good go. They had some good results, and obviously Liam Delap was been a really impressive player for them, and he got off the bench late on in this game, his return from injury. So, I think we probably, if this had stayed 11-11, I think Kieran McKenna would have figured out some sort of way to get more threat out of his players. They have shown decent threat this year. But as soon as it went down to 10 men, we kind of saw Arsenal were already pretty comfortable at 11-11. 10 men, it was always going to be a very, very tough scenario from there. On that red card, I think it's the clearest red you'll see. It was so nice and so refreshing to finally see one of those challenges punished, because we get served this absolute rubbish about it's not quite reached the threshold, and it was a bit of accidental, and it's always selectively applied, right? Some tackles, if the referee gives the red card and people are looking at it going, not sure, well then it's excessive force and intent. And then when the referee doesn't give the red card, we're talking about thresholds, we're talking about not interrupting the game. What was that Michael Oliver rubbish from a few years back? He didn't want to negatively impact the Man City game when Kovacic should have been sent off. We are served up a load of crap basically from PGMOL. And I thought it was so nice for actually Chris Kavanagh, who we've had our issues with this season, but actually as a ref, he took a moment to think. He didn't just go flying in and pull the red card out, and he considered the scenario. And the scenario was this: a player who was getting beat all day, was really struggling with his man, decided the only way to deal with him was to commit a really, really dangerous tackle from behind, cynically, with no chance of getting the ball, in a dangerous motion with quite a lot of force. That's a red card. It's as simple as that, and very, very nice to see Davis go off for that red card. And then Ipswich fans booing the ref and booing Bukayo Saka afterwards. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. If that tackle had been the other way around, it would have been all hell breaking loose. So I'm very, very glad to see that dealt with properly. And we've seen so many instances, not just for Arsenal. I go back a couple of weeks, that James Tarkowski tackle in the Everton-Liverpool game was a stonewall red card, and PGMOL just waved it away, never really spoke about it, and just let kind of really poor incidents of violent conduct go, an excessive force, I should say, go, dangerous play, endangering an opposition. They haven't seemed to care about it all year, so it was very, very nice to see it finally punished. Bukayo Saka obviously got up after that, and he looked a little bit, I'm not sure. Later on in the game, we did see the camera cut to one of the physios wrapping his ankle with ice, and Mikel Arteta did say at the end of the game it was very, very sore for him, but he did confirm we don't think there's an injury there. It's sore, but he's going to be okay. So we can all breathe a sigh of relief there, because when I saw him get up and start trying to walk, I thought, that is really quite a worry. He obviously had 2 quick chances after that before half-time. And yeah, he probably should have scored the second one. I forgive him the first one. That's quite a difficult chance. But the second one, it was put through, and it's a really good chance. He's just being... I think he loses his balance as he's about to strike the ball. He's still getting up to sharpness, and this 55, 56 minutes that he had today will help him get there. But really, we're trying to prime him for these PSG games now, and I'm sure he will have some sort of involvement on Wednesday, but again, probably quite limited involvement. In the second half, it was a very, very deep block from Ipswich. We pressed into their penalty area a lot, and we had to kind of lean on some old tricks for ourselves to get 2 more goals. I don't know if these will go down as set-piece goals, but both were set-piece goals. And I thought it was really interesting. At the start of the second half, we threw 3 short corners in a row. In the 67th minute, we did 2 in a row. And then on the 69th minute, it finally worked. There was a clear direction from Nicolas Jova. We are not going to launch the ball into this box. Ipswich have some humongous defenders, some huge players. So I think the decision was, we're not going to launch it in. Actually, they are very, very big, and they probably want us to put that ball in so that they can then go and break on us, because they feel like they're going to win the first header, first ball. And it was a really clever decision from Nicolas Jova, because multiple times we created chances from both sides of the pitch from those short corners. I don't typically like short corners, but when you see them drilled as well as we've got them drilled, and almost like they are a set play, of course, but almost like a set play that you'd see in American football, where Rice passes to Ødegaard lays it off to Zinchenko returns it to Rice, and then they go from there, and they've kind of drawn a little bit of space in the Ipswich box by kind of trying to drag defenders out. That's really clever, and I like that, and I thought we did that really well. Of course, like I said, the 69th minute, it finally worked. They didn't involve Zinchenko in this one. It was Rice to Ødegaard back to Rice. And then he played a really clever ball just inside 2 Ipswich players. It's pretty tragic defending, let's be honest, from an Ipswich point of view. No one goes and closes Trossard down when he receives that ball. No one's tight to him. And it gives him plenty of time, but like I mentioned before, a very smart finish from Leandro Trossard. Had so much room to turn. And then finally, our 4th goal, we did get another goal from a short corner. This time from the right-hand side, Wanyeri takes it, and I think he's with Ødegaard at that time. It ends up with Zinchenko on the edge of the box. This one I think is far less likely to go down as a set-piece goal than the first one. Ends up with Zinchenko. Very clever little short through ball. Wanyeri kind of spins off of it, and is working his way across the box as he goes to finish, and as he fires the ball in, deflection and straight into the back of the net. 4-0 felt like a deserved scoreline. It was total domination. I think we had 24 shots to Ipswich's 4. They really only had one moment, which was that George Hurst chance. And that was a good moment from them. But if you're only going to create one decent chance in the whole game, you're really going to struggle. SofaScore has got it down as a 0.17 expected goals for Ipswich from 4 total shots, 2.55 expected goals from 24 total shots for us. So you can see the scale of our dominance, and it really was a non-contest before the red card, and then after it was very, very low in terms of Ipswich quality. The field tilt graph is one of the most dominant field tilt graphs I think I've ever seen. There is literally 2 or 3 periods of ever so slight Ipswich pressure. That's it. We really did do a fantastic job of dominating the opponent before and after the red card. Quick word for Nathan Butler-Oyedeji. He got his Premier League debut and nearly scored. Good save from Palmer in the Ipswich goal. And that's what led to the corner for the fourth goal. So I think he can kind of consider himself a little bit involved in that goal. So very, very exciting for him. I'm going to take a short break now, and when I come back, I'm going to do a little bit more tactical analysis as I go through the stars and underpars and talk about how each player affected the game and what they did. Okay, back in a moment. Hello everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you're like me, you finished watching an Arsenal game and you're already looking for the next bit of Arsenal coverage you can find. If that sounds like you, follow or subscribe to Arsenal Unfiltered on your podcast app of choice right now to make sure you don't miss a single episode from me. I'm here 3 times a week, reviewing matches and covering Arsenal news, and I'm so excited to have you all here as well. Thank you very much. Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of this match review podcast here at Arsenal Unfiltered. Arsenal 4, Ipswich 0. You've heard all about the goals in the first half of the podcast. Let's talk about some of our stars and underpars. And the first star I want to give out is Ben White. I thought he was brilliant in this game. Really, really positive going forward. First of all, I mean, it's his first 90 minutes since the injury, I believe. I'm just going to have a quick look at that just to make sure I've got that right. And I think for the first time since the injury, I was looking at him and thinking, okay, you're back now. Like, you have got a real, what's the word? He's got his physicality back. You've got a real, like, zip in your step and a real, you've got an ability to run again and travel with the ball and travel around Bukayo Saka and make yourself dangerous, I guess, is probably the best way of talking about it. Really, really pleased for him. It's not quite his... Oh, no, it is his first 90. Yeah, I was about to say the Chelsea game, but actually that was the Chelsea game in November. So it is his first 90 since the injury. So really, really impressive that he is now back and fully fit. There has been that rumour going around, really, that Arsenal are committing far more to these surgeries and making sure that players go under the knife quickly. Ben White is someone who I think they would have put under the knife a bit quicker had Yuri and Timber been fit when Ben was playing all that football last season. I think they would have wanted to give him surgery if they could have. They couldn't with no Yuri and Timber. And for that reason now, they have put him under the knife. Now they know Yuri and Timber is safe and fit and secure, touch wood. And look, I think it's worked for him. He looks much, much better. He doesn't look like he's carrying injuries. Does he look perfectly sharp? No. And of course, he wasn't tested much defensively, but I still want to give him the star because I think he added that final piece into the Ødegaard-Saka puzzle. Timber does a very good job of trying to replicate that, but I just don't think his overlapping runs are quite as good. I prefer Timber when he goes inside Ødegaard and Saka, but that's often not what they need. They need someone going around the outside and dragging players away from them so they can operate on that inside element. Timber's fantastic defensively, of course, but I thought Ben White showed his class as an attacking force yesterday, and with Trossard driving over there as well, we really, really did add a huge string to our bow, made Ipswich really shift over. Another player I want to give a star to is Leandro Trossard. 2 great finishes, really intelligent running and lovely positioning across the whole of that first half. He obviously came off on the 83rd minute, but I think he can be really proud of his work. And I think, like I said at the start, I do think this is a signal from Mikel Arteta. This is what I'm going with against PSG. These lads need to get ready playing this system, playing like this. It's not a big tweak to our system, in no way, shape or form, because Declan Rice has been doing a lot of that left 8, pushing on, trying to get up and support Mikel Merino. Now it's Mikel Merino doing the left 8, pushing on, up to support Leandro Trossard. I think the only difference is Mikel Merino likes to back in to defenders and can occupy centre-backs a little bit more than Trossard can. Trossard has to drift off a little bit more. So it will be about managing, the PSG centre-backs are obviously going to be better than the Ipswich centre-backs, but it's going to be about managing the space around them and whether we need to occupy them with Mikel Merino or whether we need to be running in behind with Trossard and the like. We won't know until we see how PSG play, but this team is super adaptable, and I think they will they'll pick up whatever's come to them and whatever they need to in their stride. Under pars. Let's go here. I mean, this is probably the wrong time to give an under par, but I'm going to give an under par to Martin Ødegaard. And look, people might be screaming at me there saying, what are you on about? He had a great game. And I do agree. His general play was really, really impressive. Really impressive. I think he had a number, almost record-breaking number of passes into the box. He had an incredibly high score on SofaScore. They gave him a 9.4, 5 key passes, a couple of shots on target. He won 50% of his ground duels. He did a really, really good job. The only reason I've included him in the under par section, I really do mean under par in the loosest sense of the term, is I just feel like this should have been a day where he got more of a contribution. I know he got a bit of a technical assist for the Trossard goal, but things that he tried just very nearly came off. Of course, he hit the post. That was so close. And I really, really wanted him to go and get a goal because I think he's been fantastic over the recent weeks. He's been very, very good in the Real Madrid games. No matter, people were criticising him for the first half in the second leg, but actually in the second half of that game, I thought he came out and played really, really well. And again, he's been good here, but he's been good in his general play. As it's been the problem all year, I've never felt Martin Ødegaard's level has been really poor. I think he's struggled since the injury, of course. He had a down period there. But I think, and he would probably say the same, I think he has said the same, his output has not been good enough this year. And I think that was a game where I really felt like he could have got something, could have got a goal or anything really. So with a bit of a heavy heart, he is my under par, but it's a bit of a tokenistic under par because I thought he was superb in his general play. My problem is he's got 2 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League this year. It's not enough, and of course we will dissect that probably in more detail over the summer break and kind of understand what Martin Ødegaard needs a bit more of to really excel and get back into his kind of, I think he had 2 22 goal and assist seasons in a row, so to get back there would be very, very useful. Otherwise, I can't think of a single player. William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior didn't have much to do, so I guess you could maybe slot them in there, but really it's not a bad performance from them. It's similar to the Martin Ødegaard thing. It's not a bad performance, it's a good performance. We just didn't get to see what we wanted to see perhaps from them, because we love to see William Saliba and Jakub Kiwior flying into tackles, winning big tackles. Ipswich just weren't there to do it. They weren't offering a threat. So, they're probably the players that were on the periphery of the game a little bit more. Very interesting that we saw Miles Lewis-Skelly in the 6 towards the end of the game when Rice came off and who else came off? Mourinho came off, didn't he? And we had Zinchenko left 8, Miles Lewis-Skelly in 6, and Kieran Tierney was at left back. I don't know if I see Miles Lewis-Skelly as a 6, but clearly if he's gone in there, Mikel Arteta has it in the back of his mind. That is a player who could do that if needed. And I wonder if there is a world where maybe he looks at Miles Lewis-Skelly as a 6 for next year rather than a left back, and he's kind of thinking, can I keep Calafiori and Zinchenko as my left back options? Who knows? I can't see it, but you just never know with Mikel Arteta. He's always got a trick up his sleeve. I'm going to leave it there, guys. It was a really, really good weekend of football for Arsenal simply because it was stress-free, it was injury-free, it was red card for us free, it was crappy penalty decision free, and we're not going to be talking about Arsenal can't attack. We're not going to be talking about, we're worried about how we create goals and stuff like that. We can have a very, very simple couple of days until the Crystal Palace game on Wednesday. Of course, I will be previewing that game on Tuesday and reviewing it on Thursday. And it's exciting, isn't it? Just to hopefully get second wrapped up nice and early, and we can move on to the Champions League is what I'm trying to say. Our next Premier League game after that will be the 3rd of May against Bournemouth, so we will have had the first leg of the PSG game from then. So we've got a nice little break from the Premier League. All exciting. I think that will be the lineup that we go for in the PSG game, and I'm excited to see how this season comes to a close. Will we have that big trophy at the end of it that we all so desperately want? Or will this kind of peter out and feel like a bit of a a sad end. Let's see what happens. It was a really good result this weekend. And I will speak to you on Tuesday. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.